Hello and welcome to Season 4, Episode 5 of the Barbarian Law YouTube channel. I'm Karim Eshqoor and I'm the managing partner. And today we are going to be discussing the ethics of basketball. Some people believe that the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So I take basketball very seriously, and I also can get mad when people do unethical things based on my moral code. However, ethics are not black and white, they are a gray area. So I'm going to do my best to list what I believe is ethical in the game of basketball and what is unethical in the game of basketball. So let's go through it together. Let's start off with off-ball screens. Setting screens for your teammates, trying to get them open, very ethical. Pass and cut, passing the ball without the expectation of getting it back, very good. Slip screens, setting a screen but using it more so as a way to get your man open if they're setting traps. Touch passes, as soon as you get the ball, quickly send it to the next person without dribbling, without holding and thinking. Quick touch pass, just pass. Then you have feeding the hot hand. Feeding the hot hand is when someone has made a couple shots in a row, the theory is that they will continue to make shots. So you should pass the ball to that person. I got choked up because when I'm hot, I don't get the ball and I get sad sometimes. Open player gets the ball, right? Someone is open, they should get it. That's ethical, right? That's equal opportunity offense. And then player-oriented offense. We're going to come back to that when I discuss system-oriented offenses. So unethical types of basketball, grifting. Grifting, it means complaining, trying to leverage influence over the referees or whoever is in charge of the runs, and that can be in terms of calls, fouls, out of bound calls that may or may not have happened. So if you didn't see a ball go out, you should not call out. Other things is foul baiting or over fouling, right? In pickup ball, when there's no shooting fouls, sometimes if you foul, it's actually advantage for the defense. But why should the defense get an advantage for fouling? It doesn't make sense. So people who over foul or people who try to get foul baiting calls where they stick their arms to the defender, I actually think that this might be in the middle, because using your skill to draw a foul, I wouldn't say is necessarily a bad thing. However, it does ruin the quality of the game in terms of watchability because the free throws take a long time. So in terms of what's best for everybody, my morals is about what's best for everybody. Best for everybody is we don't spend time watching some guys shoot free throws. At least if we're going to watch free throws, make one free throw worth 2 points instead of 2 free throws or 3 free throws, which take 1 or 2 minutes at a time. I don't have the patience to watch it. So I don't watch as much NBA as much as I used to, even though I love the sport of basketball. So next, this is one I feel very strongly about. Making noise while people are shooting. I'm very sensitive to sounds. I've had people scream at the top of their lungs while I'm taking a shot, and I've told them that the only time you should be screaming like this is if someone is getting attacked, murdered. That's a type of screech that I heard when I'm shooting, and I just it's it actually activates this ancient, ancestral, traumatic memories of people screaming and getting hurt. So some people are very sensitive to sound, other people are sensitive to light. So I think being ethical is taking into considerations everyone's uniqueness and making the game fun for everybody. So next, holding on to the ball for too long. So as soon as you get a pass, you have maybe 1 or 2 seconds to quickly do your triple threat, jab, shoot, pass. But some people, they hold on to it, they start dribbling between their legs for no reason, shout out Hussein, and then it ruins the flow of the offense. So we can't do anything with that. Forcing shots is self-evident. If you shoot it when it's not your turn, you better make that. Second of all, being a system-oriented team is where you have a system and everyone follows the system, and there is some room for initiative, but not much. But being a player-oriented type of coach is where you build around your teams and specific players' expertise and their skill sets. So I don't think one is necessarily better than the other. However, in terms of what makes the game more fun to play and watch, I definitely think player-oriented systems are more fun to watch because they everyone watches games now because of the individuals. They don't watch games because of the teams. And people aren't slave to being Raptors fans now. They're fans of individual players, right? So let's go through what actually is hard to distinguish. There's a gray area between ethical and unethical. The first thing is three-pointers. This was very difficult. Some people don't like that the game has drifted off into shooting threes, like all game, like 50, 60 threes for each team. Some people don't like that, but I don't see that as ethical or unethical. I think it's a matter of, it's a skill game, and shooting from further is a skill that basketball rewards. And so I think that hand-eye accuracy, hand-eye coordination is very important in the game, and so it should be rewarded. Next, isolations. Putting your man in ISO is not unethical, but it's also not ethical because, you know, it's taking advantage of people. So I left it in the middle. Pick and rolls. Also, these are these are plays that every team runs, but I don't think anyone should say that it's unethical that you keep running pick and rolls. However, some teams might be able to win a series just by running pick and rolls all game. So the next one, heliocentrism. Heliocentrism is the idea of building your team around one or maybe two star players, giving them the ball all the time, letting them create, and they're the ones to distribute the ball to who needs it at the correct time, and that's someone like Luka Doncic, like Kyrie, LeBron, those type of players where they have the skill set to pass, but also you have to stop them from scoring first. So those guys are problems, especially in a 5-on-5 game. So one player is 20% of the team. Instead of soccer, it's 1 of 11. One player cannot make as much contribution. Okay, so next we have heavy minutes. Being able to play heavy minutes is actually an advantage, right? So you can play more minutes. If LeBron is playing 45 out of 48 minutes, he's most likely going to win. And the fact that he's able to do that is a testament to his physical ability. So we're not going to have any problems with that. With people using the skills that they were born with, is fine. But he also takes a lot of good care of his body. Not to say that LeBron is a product of his physical gifts, because I do think that he's one of the most skilled players of all time as well. Coach DNPs. If a coach needs to bench you to make a point, I respect it. You know, coaches are there to teach, and they've been given positions of authority. And if they're not doing their job, they can get fired, which has happened to me. I had one coach of mine who got fired for not showing up to practice, and then during practice, he said he was at a funeral, and then during the practice, he posted a job of his renovation he did with his son in his bathroom. So, you know, some coaches are not serious. We ended the season without a coach that year. But the coach sat me one game, and even though like he wasn't a good coach, I learned a lot from being sat that game, because I was like, I never want to get sat again. And then it ended up working well. I didn't get sat for any more games the rest of my university career, and I ended up being the captain the next year. So you learn lessons even when the coach benches you. That's my point. Other thing, design plays. If the coach has a design play, there's nothing wrong with that to get points. Zone defense. Some people, they just put their biggest guy on defense in the key and say you have no layups. There's nothing wrong with that. You have to be able to make shots. That's what the game of basketball is about. Next, box and one, triangle and two defense. These are if you have star players, you can shut it down. There's nothing wrong with that per se. But obviously Golden State was complaining when we had Fred VanVleet on Steph Curry in a box and one. They're saying this is a junk defense, this is high school shit. But I used to be the box and one guy in a box, and I would take it very seriously, where the one is making sure the other players, their star players, not touching the ball. And so I think strategy is good and it's not unethical, but now I want to discuss how the ethics and morals in my life have been tested. So I had lunch with the billionaire once. Okay, I had lunch with the billionaire. This is not something that everyone gets the opportunity to do. There's not many billionaires in Canada, let alone in the world. So I had an opportunity to judge a contest about like the top businesses in the area, and we chose 3 finalists. And after the 3 finalists were chosen, I get a call from the people organizing the awards, and they're saying, "Hey, why didn't you consider this business?" I said, "Oh, I did. I didn't like the application for whatever reason." And they said, "Oh, I think you should include them as a top 3 finalist because we've had some accusations against one of the finalists that you originally chose. So we'd like to remove them from the finalists and put this other restaurant in. I said, okay, I have no problem with that. You know, for me, when people are interfering with what's supposed to be a hands-off process, like from up above, it's like, I don't like that. So I ended up not attending the award ceremony, and I ended up like ending my affiliation with that organization. So it turned out like a couple years later, maybe a year or two later, that the person, that billionaire, ended up getting charged with like 10 counts of crimes that I don't even want to say. And this has been ongoing, like the accusation stemmed back from like 30, 40, 50 years. And now I was forced to change I'm not gonna say forced, but basically I was like very much encouraged to change my vote to get this person's restaurant in the finalist for this award. And so that got me thinking about how institutions and systems, they actually can be corrupt. So what we also in the news this week was that the Freemasons in England are suing to block the release of information about who is a member and who is not. So one thing I love about the UK when I lived there is that it's the best democracy that exists. It's a very old democracy, and that country has been around for like a lot longer than Canada has. And so they have had a lot more tests to their democracy than Canada has over its past 200 years. So the UK is now considering forcing people who are parts of groups to identify what groups they're a part of. And the Freemasons of England have sued to block the release of this information because they're saying that, I don't know what their excuse is, but the reason for why they wanted people to disclose their group identity is to prevent corruption. And the Freemasons believe that if they actually release all of this information about who is a Freemason, we will see that there's a lot of people in positions of power that are part of the same organization. And I think it makes sense that people in a certain group would want to bring other people who are similar to them into their dominant group. And so I think it's a great thing that the UK is forcing the police and other public servants to potentially disclose what groups they identify with. And so Barbarian Law is not against institutions. It's against institutions that help gatekeep the information, the power away from the people. And so this discussion around ethics in basketball can be applied to ethics in business, ethics in anything that you do. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And for me, I'm happy with all the decisions that I've made. I have no regrets. And so I will keep putting out content because I'm proud of everything that I've done. And I hope you guys support me, and Barbarian Law for life.